our own fleet. We'll provide the world-leading design and build the first of these new boats, creating thousands of good, well-paid jobs in places like Barrow and Derby. And we will share our knowledge and experience with Australian engineers so they can build their own fleet. Now, our partnership is significant because not just are we building these submarines together, they will also be truly interoperable.
Earlier on today, well, here the government's illegal migration bill has passed its second reading in the House of Commons tonight. There was a majority of 62, despite a Tory backbench rebellion. Several Tory MPs had called for amendments to the bill, but MPs voted 312 to 250 in favour. The legislation would allow for the removal of illegal Channel migrants from the UK, and the bill will now proceed to the committee stage. As you've been hearing, the television presenter Gary Lineker has been reinstated to Match of the Day presenting after reaching an agreement with the BBC today. That's after he was taken off air over a tweet on the government's illegal migration bill last week. The BBC Director General has apologised and said the corporation's launching an independent review of its social media guidelines. The board has welcomed the move, saying impartiality is a cornerstone of the BBC. And speaking to the BBC, Director General Tim Davies said he had taken proportionate action. Now, Dick Fosbury, who revolutionised the high jump in athletics, has died at the age of 76. His agent said he passed away peacefully in his sleep in the early hours of Sunday morning following a battle with lymphoma. Fosbury used his new technique to win gold at the 1968 Olympic Games in Mexico City. It was a technique copied thereafter by millions. King Charles and other members of the royal family have attended a service celebrating Commonwealth Day today at Westminster Abbey. And the King focused in his speech on the theme of forging a sustainable and peaceful common future. King Charles said a commitment to peace, progress and opportunity would sustain the Commonwealth. That's all from the GB Newsroom. Now time for headliners.
Hello, I'm Andrew Doyle. Welcome to Headliners, your first look at Tuesday's top news stories. Joining me tonight are the cherubic Jonathan Cogan and the devilish Bruce Devlin. How are you both?
Pretty good.
You seem a bit offended by that, Bruce. I apologise.
No, I'm more offended at cherubic.
Cherubic, yes.
I don't think you are. And
I'm only cherubic in the downstairs.
Wow.
I don't think you want to admit that on TV. Jonathan,
when are we starting?
You do have a very angelic face, though, don't you?
Thank you. I'm full of darkness and resentment inside. So.
Yes,
Oh.
yes. Yeah.
Well, I'm here.
That's why you're here. Well, before we crack on, we're going to have a look at Tuesday's front pages. And we're going to start with the Daily Mail, which is leading with a slap in the face for BBC licence payers. Of course, we're going to be covering that in a moment. Of course, it's about Gary Lineker. Then The Telegraph has boost for pensions as Hunt ready to raise cap. That's not his headwear. He's actually talking about a pensions cap. The Guardian has BBC bosses face pressure after U-turn over Lineker. That's dominating a number of the front covers. The Times has PM strikes submarine deal to face new threat. And The Sun, Glitter back in jail. That's Gary Glitter there. The Daily Star, great BBC balls up. 1-0 to the crisp salesman. It's not very nice of them. Those were your front pages. So let's have a look at these front pages. We're going to start with the front of the Times. Jonathan, what are the Times leading with on Tuesday?
Well, this is a rather exciting / terrifying story. So the PM strikes submarine deal to face new threat. So Sunak has warned of the dangers now coming from Russia and China. There's been quite a lot of tension globally, and this seems to be the way that he is reacting to that. So Britain is preparing to double its fleet of attack submarines as Rishi Sunak warns of a difficult and dangerous decade ahead. So the Prime Minister sealed a deal last night to build a multi-billion-pound fleet in Britain using US technology that is also being shared with Australia. So there seems to be a bit of a team-up with some of our allies. We're all getting some new subs. It's, not necessarily going to be the easiest time for the citizen, but if you're part of the military-industrial complex, ka-ching.
OK, well, yes, certainly. I mean, it's good for some people. People will be earning a lot of money. Always happens in wartime situations.
Absolutely.
But is this about the escalating tensions in terms of China maybe cozying up with Russia more and more? That does seem to be a prospect at the moment,
doesn't it? It does seem to be. It's kind of, I don't want to say all the bad guys, but from how they treat their citizens, it does seem to be a bit that way sometimes.
There's a bit of a human rights issue in China. I think you're allowed to say the bad guys in that respect.
Yeah.
Bruce, are you concerned about this escalation? Does it make you feel that we are on the cusp of a world war?
No.
No?
No, I'm not concerned, and no, I don't think we are on the cusp of a world war. And if we are, then I'm sorry, I've obviously fudged that.
Yeah. Well, this will come back to haunt you. No, I don't really. I think there are escalating tensions. And I suppose that
Aren't there everywhere?
There are, exactly. And this is just symptomatic of that, I suppose. But on the other hand, as Jonathan says, good for the economy.
But good news specifically for places like Barrow and Derby, I think Rishi had said.
Yes, he said that's where they're going to build them.
They're going to build them in Barrow and Derby. So well done to the people in Barrow and Derby.
Well, when you think of submarines, you think of Barrow and Derby.
Well, clearly, because they're going to be Rolls-Royce engines, aren't they?
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So it might
I think the Beatles. That's where I go.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. OK, well, we're going to move on now to the front cover of our next paper, The Telegraph. They're running with something a bit different, Bruce, I believe.
They're running with a potpourri of stuff. What would you like me to focus on? The one that really did stand out to me was a bottle of wine to cost 45 pence more in tax raid. The price of a bottle of wine is expected to rise by about 45 pence thanks to an alcohol tax raid to be announced in the budget. Jeremy Hunt, the Chancellor, is set to confirm tomorrow that alcohol duties will rise with inflation.
Now, in terms of these kinds of leaps, that's quite a jump, isn't it?
45p.
I think so. I mean, look, when you're buying a bottle of wine, 45p is neither here nor there, is it?
Well, Lambrini is £3, so 45p.
Oh, I mean,
do they still make that?
I make an order, yeah.
I think, Jonathan, if you're buying bad wine, then you might notice the difference. But if you're buying a decent Chablis, an extra 45p...
A Chablis or a Merlot.
Is neither here nor there.
I think ultimately, if you want wine, you will find a way to purchase wine.
Yes.
And so many leading supermarkets have offers. You don't get them so much in Scotland because we have minimum pricing on alcohol.
Yes.
Which I'm not sure if it's worked or not. But down here, you do get a lot of buy 6 bottles and get 25% off.
Yes, but the thing with the minimum pricing on alcohol in Scotland is it has disproportionately affected poorer people because it's just affected the cheaper drinks. If you're rich and you're buying whatever you want, then it hasn't really affected them at all.
No, I have a friend who has a gin company, so I get a discount anyway, so it hasn't really...
It doesn't affect you.
No, I agree with you that I don't think people that enjoy a decent wine...
And what about this other thing? I mean, Jeremy Hunt is cropping up in quite a few of the papers on Tuesday. Boost for pensions. So what do you make of this one?
Well, what it's saying... So he's going to, as you say, doff his cap, raise his cap, not millinery wear. The new threshold now be of maybe over 1.5 million in order to tackle rising trend of early retirement.
Yes, and that has been happening more and more since the pandemic. Apparently people even in their 50s have sort of been deciding to take early retirement now. I think people just got used to not working.
Yeah, and I think that suited a lot of people. I hated listening to those people that were like, but I can't not do anything. It's like, well, I can do nothing very well, so please don't put that toxic...
I think most people enjoy that, don't they? But Hunt's doing all sorts of things that obviously, he's the other day there was the story about the childcare. He's trying to woo voters with the idea of subsidising childcare and that kind of thing, I mean, all of these changes that Hunt is making, it won't really matter. He won't be in next time.
No, you think it's all just paying lip service to people?
I don't know why he's bothering. I'd just try and, at this point, if I were the Tories, I'd just try and coast through, focus on the next election.
No, fair enough.
Because this one's sort of gone.
It has, yeah.
We're going to go to the front cover now of The Express. Now, of course, Gary Lineker was dominating the headlines the other day. He hasn't gone away. No, it's here on The Express.
It seems to be the story of our time. So has Lineker put a nail in the coffin of licence fee? I mean... I don't think this is going to be the final nail in the licence fee. If I'm completely honest, it's one hot topic issue that people are going to forget about in about a week and a half time.
But can you explain why would the Lineker furore threaten the licence fee? We've been having debates about the licence fee for years, let's be honest.
Well, do you think it's a fact that if their top talent who are, on very high salaries feel as if they can't express themselves, they're all going to move to other places for better wages, and then there'll be even less incentive for people to watch the BBC and people stop paying it? Do you think it's like a talent exodus, or is it just... I mean, I'm not completely sure why the fee would be in jeopardy here. The fee's in jeopardy because nobody watches... Well, of my generation watches the BBC.
They don't. That is the problem, isn't it? What do you think the BBC should do at this point, Bruce?
I think they should pipe down and have a think to themselves, because
Okay.
I think there's a fair few problems going on there.
Yes.
I think they really need to re-examine the daytime schedule. It's quite depressing.
Yes.
And if people are paying 150 quid for the privilege of being depressed at home.
Yes, but I mean, it's quite important that the BBC retains its impartiality because, of course, the licence fee is not... it's compulsory. So there are lots of people paying for things that they don't agree with. And I think the tweet by Lineker was... I think the survey said something like 2/3 of the British public completely disagree with what he said. So, it's not helping their situation, is it, at this point? And he did say it was a ridiculous thing.
Yeah,
the Tory government with Nazi Germany.
Sure,
It's
and you can say it was quite sort of just casually bringing up, sort of Nazi Germany and just to make a point. But should be allowed to express himself. But then again, he's under a contract not to. So I don't know.
Yeah, it strikes
There's always
me
a space for you here, Gary.
Strikes me as more. Yeah, you can come here, do a show here.
But that's the thing, that apparently the other sides are looking to not necessarily poach him, but offer him a contract.
Oh, of course they will.
And word on the street is it's like double the amount of money that he's currently on.
But that's the point, isn't it, though? If you do sign up for the BBC, you do also sign away your right to say what you want on social media. That is the deal. So my feeling is it's not a free speech issue, it's a you've made a decision contractually issue, which is kind of a different thing, I would say. Anyway, to end this section, we're going to have a look at the front page of The Sun, Bruce, and Gary Glitter.
I think I'm actually going to jump in with
You're
this
going to
one.
jump in with this one.
Yeah,
Okay,
no reason why I should jump in with Gary Glitter, except for that time I met him in Thailand when I was 8. I shouldn't say that. So basically, Glitter back in jail. This is the headline. So he's actually, I would say, probably the second most controversial British Gary out in the media
At the moment.
At the moment. I mean, I think he's several orders of magnitude worse, but,
Well, The Sun describes him as the fiend. I do like these stories because they're able to bring out their vocabulary.
Very evocative.
Very evocative.
Yeah.
Yes, so why is he back in jail?
So the disgraced pop star has been found to be discussing the dark web, an online realm apparently used by paedophiles that is harder to monitor or track users. Everybody knows the dark web is where you buy acid. No diddling, just drugs. Well, I'm sure there is actually some illicit diddling there.
I've never been on the dark web, but I understand there are all sorts of ghastly things that you can get.
Yeah, well, I'm very technologically illiterate, so I never really know how to do it. I can barely use Telegram, I can barely use TikTok, I can barely use the software here, which I'm employed to use.
You do struggle.
Dino, it's hard. It is hard. But yeah, basically, he's been talking and discussing about things that violate his parole term,
right? And
now he's back in jail.
So,
they weren't technically illegal though; they were just against his parole. The things he's been discussing.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's difficult to have a hot take on this, isn't it? If someone violates their parole, they go back to prison. That's it.
Yeah.
There's not much more to say about it.
Don't diddle.
Really. Well, there's that, obviously, but that sort of goes without saying.
Yeah.
Anyway, those are the front pages dealt with. But coming up after a short break, the police are ditching non-crime hate incidents, finally. Scotland are ditching the monarchy. And Jonathan will be doing his best to eliminate world poverty. So see you in 3 minutes.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216,
Freeview Channel 236,
and YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio,
with the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not
believe in prison?
I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dubes and Kerr.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit up.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions those days are gone, I can tell you. She's only teasing. Go on.
He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one.
Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Dubes and Kerr. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway,
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, no, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
we've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
Is the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners with me, Andrew Doyle. Your first look at Tuesday's newspapers. Joining me are Jonathan Cogan and Bruce Devlin. Let's begin with Tuesday's Telegraph. Some welcome news here, Jonathan, in the Telegraph.
Yes, indeed. Finally, the UK have done something sensible and taken a step back from its Orwellian trajectory. So, police to be banned from recording non-crime hate incidents because someone is offended. Actually, earlier today, Andrew told me my shirt was a non-crime hate incident. So
I said it was offensive.
Yeah. Well, but it doesn't need to be reported now.
But you were going to report me for hate crime?
Yeah, this shirt is me. This is who I am as a person. And I'm confused.
It's a visual assault, and texturally, it's scary.
Oh, it's corduroy.
No, I'm familiar. I'm not saying it's right.
So this is bizarre, though. The police have been recording, I think over a 5-year period, they recorded over 120,000 non-crimes. And of course, the problem with that is the police are supposed to be investigating crime,
yes,
as opposed to non-crime, wasting a lot of time with this. And of course, it would affect people's job prospects because it shows up on a disclosure and barring service. So if someone has phoned the police and said, oh, that Bruce Devlin said something that really offended me, there might be a non-crime hate incident recorded against your name, and then you apply for a job and you don't get it because of that. So this is a problem.
It's like a permanent record.
Don't think that would be the only reason I wouldn't get whatever job it is.
No,
I don't think my attitude lends itself to conventional employment. I think I have an conventional employment limiting personality.
You do. So maybe that was a bad example.
But can I just ask, though, are you aware as to whether you have this on your record or not?
That's a very good question. So the various groups that have looked into this now, civil liberties groups and the like, show that you can ask. So you have to contact the police and say, do I have a non-crime hate incident by my name? And now, following this intervention by the Home Secretary, it will be scrapped.
Oh, they're getting rid of all of them?
So they're getting rid of everything, from the looks of things. And all of this came about because the College of Policing suddenly decided that they should start recording non-crime. Absolute waste of everyone's time.
But how can they just sort of introduce that? I mean, you've written about this kind of extensively in your books, which are on sale now at all good retailers.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Yeah,
I didn't even ask you to do that.
Yeah. No, I mean...
They can do it because the College of Policing is a quango, and they sort of make their own rules up.
Right.
And then when there were the various court cases, there was a High Court judgment with Harry Miller, who took this on. And then the Home Secretary said, OK, you've got to stop this now. You've got to stop recording that. That was 2 years ago.
And it's taken this long.
And the High Court said, yeah, it's not lawful what you're doing to the police. Wow. And the police carried on doing it anyway. So now, finally, it looks like it's over.
Who watches The Watchmen, Andrew?
It is ridiculous. Because
one of they include trivial cases, such as the Bedfordshire man who ended up with a police file for whistling the theme tune to Bob the Builder at his neighbour, because that was perceived racial hatred.
Because...
I don't understand any of that.
The reason for that is the College of Policing have said it counts as a non-crime hate incident if someone perceives that it's offensive. Whether it was meant to be offensive or not is utterly irrelevant. It gets recorded irrespective
So intention doesn't even count?
No.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
So it finally looks like things are changing, but Scotland has a long way to go. I mean, the Scottish police record... They have hundreds of jokes on a database by Scottish citizens that they found online.
All by Leo Curse.
All Leo curse. Yeah.
Do they?
Yeah, they do, and they don't tell anyone. So again, you have to put in a Freedom of Information Act to find out.
But why isn't it legislated that if you are subject to one of these things or whatever, that you immediately get told? Surely you should be told.
Of course you should be, but apparently not.
Maybe they don't have the manpower because they're recording the incidents.
Well, it takes a lot of time, to be fair to them, Bruce. It's a lot of effort.
Yeah, well, exactly.
A lot of effort for nothing. Anyway, what about the claims Humza Yousaf is making in The Telegraph, Bruce?
Well, I don't understand why people are surprised about this.
Okay.
And I do always think it's very interesting watching people report on the SNP, because by virtue of them being the Scottish National Party, a referendum on independence is never off the table, because people go, but they're one single party. And, you know, that is one of their driving forces. What he is saying here is that Scotland could ditch the monarchy within 5 years of leaving the United Kingdom. Now, it's very interesting, because going back to 2014, Alex Salmond had said that the Queen would remain the elected head of state.
Yes, that's what I'm confused about, because the SNP's policy is to remain a monarchy.
Yeah, well, and it was with Nicola as well.
Yes.
She also agreed with that. But maybe this is him trying to woo more yes voters, or, you know, I mean, I don't know.
But it's pretty mixed, though, isn't it? So the polling in Scotland is suggestive of, like, that 40% would like Scotland to remain a monarchy and 40% wouldn't. And then the others are sort of, they don't know where they are. So actually, it's really right down the line.
Yeah.
So if you want to win votes, is this necessarily the best way to do it?
In one way, I suppose, if you think about it, at least he's being direct. He's, you know, showing people that he's saying, you know, I'm not a citizen. He's a citizen and he's a Republican. He's not a subject.
Not a subject.
So
Saying he has a position.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of plain talking will appeal to a lot of voters.
What do you think about this, Jonathan? Do you think this is a good idea? I mean, obviously, Humza Yousaf is now really, he's got his eye on the prize at this.
Sure.
And he's got to fend off Kate, hasn't he?
Because she's 15 points ahead.
She is ahead. So what do you think?
Do you think this is something of a Hail Mary, or this is something of, this is absolutely what he believes, he wants to do it? I don't...
Oh, well, I mean, I always assume people are telling the truth, because I'm gullible.
Especially politicians.
But yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think it would kind of be funny. We could have like a mini, like a play War of Independence kind of thing again, where they leave the king and have another Scottish Hamilton. It'd be
Well, but it's been since James I that the monarchy has been united, hasn't it? So there would be quite a lot to unpick if we were going to do this.
Well, absolutely. But people want Andy Murray to be the elected head of state for Scotland.
Can he not just be king?
I don't know.
They could do something like that, Andy III or something.
Yeah, I'm not
Sounds
sure.
good to me. We're going to move on. This one in the Independent now. Jonathan, this is about MPs making things up.
I know, and isn't that their entire job description?
Maybe.
That's my hot take, politicians lie. There we go.
This is the Independent, yes?
This is in the Independent, yep. So, according to Marie Leconte, or Conte, at least 3 MPs have made easily disprovable claims. So, Leconte, or Conte, says, 3 months ago today, Andrew Bridgen stood up in the in the House of Commons and spread anti-vax propaganda. He quoted a controversial doctor who called for a complete cessation of the administration of the COVID mRNA vaccines for everyone because of clear and robust data of significant harms and little ongoing benefit. So, you know, he's stood up and he's made some pretty... You could argue them to be very wild claims. Now,
that was a while ago, and actually, to be fair to Bridgen, he was making the claim that some people had died as a result of the vaccine, which is true.
That is true, right? As I understand it.
So I'm torn about this article, because then she goes on to talk about his latest claim. And Andrew Bridgen has tweeted out, and I think this was yesterday, saying that I can confirm that during my visit to Washington, D.C. last Christmas, New Year, I was informed that the US Department of Defense were responsible for both the virus and the vaccines, which is a massive, extraordinary claim that all of this, the virus and the vaccine, originated in some kind of plot from Washington. And you would expect some evidence attached to that.
Yeah.
There is no evidence attached to that.
It shouldn't be just, I heard.
Like, a mate told me.
Yeah.
This is a sitting MP. This is serious stuff. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Bruce, shouldn't we be... I mean, the problem with this article is I think she's edging towards the idea we should censor people and people shouldn't be able to say what they think. Shouldn't we just rather criticise MPs who throw stuff out there without giving evidence for it?
Yeah, I would say so, because, I mean, those are pretty outrageous claims, and if you know evidentiary support, then why are you saying it? Because that's essentially just your opinion. The other thing was, for the avoidance of doubt, 15-minute cities was originally an urban planning concept that suggested services should be spread out across algorithms. The name comes from the belief that everyone should live within 15 minutes of amenities.
And this is in reference to Nick Fletcher, who asked in the Commons for a debate on the concept of 15-minute
I'm
cities.
saying that would cost us our personal freedom, which I didn't really understand, because, I mean, if you've only got, you know, 15 minutes to walk to the doctor, the school, if you have to drop off your children and then go to the shops, that sounds pretty good to me.
So,
if you want to leave, though, what if you want to...
I think this article is interesting because it's interesting to have a debate about what do we do about when MPs make things up. The problem with the article is she's pulled up Andrew Bridgen on this latest tweet, and she's right to do so because that's a preposterous tweet. But then she's pulled up Miriam Cates, who made a point that there are graphic lessons, sexually explicit lessons going on in schools, including references to gender identity ideology. And this article by Marie Leconte says that is provably not the case. She's wrong. It is. I've seen the materials. It is absolutely true. So this article is partisan in its own way, and it's factually
no
wrong.
Conspiracy theory can be true. Well, throughout history, plenty have proven to be true over time. You know,
yes,
time will.
But I do stand by my view that Bridgen should, if he's going to make claims that serious, he should back them up with evidence. Anyway, very easy to back up the claim that there are sexually explicit materials in school. And the belief that there are multiple genders. That is being taught by some schools. Anyway, let's talk inflation with this one in Tuesday's Mail. Bruce?
Yeah, and it's saying here that iPhones kill off 1990s favourites, such as CDs, cameras and Alco-Pops.
What do they mean by that? Just that they've made these things obsolete?
Well, this is to do with the Office for National Statistics, and I think they've just been going through their files, and basically things that were in favour in the 1990s are no longer in favour because we've moved on.
Yes.
Which seems to me is odd. But
not much of a news story, is it?
No, exactly. And the thing is, I miss Hooch. Do you still get Hooch? That was an
I remember
That was a really good mixer.
But it was just like lemonade, wasn't it?
But you used Hooch as a mixer?
Oh, yeah.
An alcoholic drink as a mixer?
Oh, you'd put it in with gin.
OK. Well, let's quickly go on to the next one. This is about eradicating global poverty from Tuesday's Guardian. And, Jonathan, I believe you've come up with your own plan to resolve this issue?
You've seen Soylent Green, right?
No, I don't know what that is.
Oh, it's when they feed the people to the other people. No, I don't have a theory.
Cannibalism, then?
Cannibalism, yes. That is... we're going to go full Jonathan Swift.
They won't know what that means.
No, I don't know what it means. But read a book, God. Right, so good news. Extreme poverty could be eradicated globally by 2050.
That is good news.
That is good news. I mean, it's a forecast in a report, but, you know, we'll see what happens.
And how do they think this will be achieved?
So I think a lot of it is to do with just developing economic growth, essentially, just the trajectory we've all been on. It looks as if, I mean, people are lifted out of, something like 100,000 people are lifted out of poverty every day. And
yes.
That's a number I've heard, don't quote me on it. So I think, it's just the trajectory of developing nations, increased economic growth and technological innovations. You know, a lot of, like, even just compare our own lives to 100 years ago, the amount of time you have to spend working to light your home is several orders of magnitude less.
It's funny, isn't it? Because we constantly hear about the world is getting worse and everything's awful, but all of the studies seem to show that actually poverty is getting better and better.
Steven Pinker did a whole thing on it.
He did. Steven Pinker wrote a book about this, I believe. Yeah, so actually things globally speaking in terms of poverty are getting better. I mean, there's still lots of poor...
We've got a lot more nuclear submarines than we used to. It's great. It's fantastic.
That's something you've wanted for a long time. Yeah.
But that's the thing. There does seem to be money, but it's kind of questionable in which is a priority project, if you see what I mean.
Yes, so, you know, really it's about the redistribution of that money.
Yes.
That should be the case. That's my little left-wing point of the night. Anyway, that's part 2 in the bag. But coming up, the Pope is rethinking celibacy, adults are rethinking their dream jobs, and Prince Andrew is rethinking, well, probably everything. See you in a few minutes.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. I campaigned in the largest democratic vote in our island's story. I know this country has so much to be proud of. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better. The wisdom of the nation is in its people. Vox Populi, Vox Dei. That's why I'm joining the People's Channel. Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Tuesday's most compelling news stories. We're going to go to Tuesday's Express now. Is the Pope getting a bit randy, Bruce?
Well, I think there's something. There's maybe something in the water or indeed the wine. So Pope Francis has hinted at the end of the 1,000-year-old celibacy rule after calling the ban temporary.
So he's saying that priests might be able to get married and have sexual relations. That's quite a turnaround, though. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, priests just cannot do that.
Well, that's your own stuff.
Yeah.
Because we were discussing that in the interval. But all I would say is, 1,000 years, that's a long while. That doesn't seem temporary to me. So it seems as though he's trying to change it.
Maybe he is. Now, there's always a problem, isn't there, Jonathan? Whenever the Catholic Church tries to change one of their rules because of papal infallibility, the idea that the Pope cannot make a mistake. And so all these popes that have been going on about the importance of celibacy for all these years, he's going to have to say they're all wrong.
Yeah.
And they can't say they're wrong.
Yeah, either they're a conduit for the word of God and they are right by biblical standards, or they've got it wrong, like you say. So
God does not change his mind about these things.
No, exactly. I mean, unless he's getting more liberal, which is possible. But imagine being an 80-year-old priest and you've been practicing celibacy all your life, only to find out, like, oh yeah, we're changing that now. You'd be livid. You'd be absolutely furious.
Or you'd have a fantastic final few years.
Yeah, just get straight out to Amsterdam.
If you were able. This is the thing. I mean, you said 80. I mean, who knows?
Well, on to our sponsors, Blue Chew, for all men.
I don't know about this one. I don't think they're going to change the rules suddenly. It would be too radical.
Do you think this is in an effort to win back people to come back to the Catholic Church?
Because I think the appeal of the Catholic Church is its traditionalism. I think that's what people want from it. I don't think they want all these sort of radical new
Do you think they could become more traditional and double down on some of the... So, no sex for anybody, even if you're not a priest?
I think that's actually a very good idea.
Yeah, sounds like my teenage years.
There we go.
One of the non-hate crimes?
It could be. Could well be. Right, well, let's move on to this next story, and this one is from the Metro. Can you relate to this one, Jonathan?
I probably can. It is, almost half of working people don't believe the dream job exists. Well, let me just say that in a few weeks, no jobs will exist thanks to AI. They're all done. Everyone's going to be on UBI and sitting at home. And
I really hope you're wrong.
When have I ever been wrong?
But then a friend of mine just got served by a robot in a restaurant. And you think, it started... That was in Northern Ireland.
Was it Yo Sushi? They had the little guys...
Well, I was waiting to see, was that not a precedent for that kind of thing?
Yeah.
That was just a conveyor belt,
Yeah, but, I mean, it's a step forward, isn't it?
Well, OK, let's get back to this article. No one thinks the dream job exists.
That's sad.
But But then most people just see the job as the necessary evil, you know, to earn the money that you need to live your life.
Sure, and that's not nothing. That you know, that can be a very important part of people's lives, and they can get some fulfillment for it, providing for a family and, you know, be able to live a quality of life that they want to live. But
yes,
I'm a big believer in just sort of turning up and assuming you'll get hired. Like, I'm on TV for some reason. I don't know why. I do not know why.
No.
But here I am.
You have your dream job,
yeah,
Jonathan.
Exactly.
Bruce, you're
a person.
A person.
Yeah.
But a stand-up comedian, is that your dream job?
No. I still don't know what my dream job is. I don't know. I'm just...
But you think it's out there? Like, you think it exists?
Not necessarily.
No.
No.
Well, the new rules, we could all become priests.
Maybe that's the dream job.
Oh, and then we could reuse our sexual energy for other nefarious purposes, yes.
We absolutely could. Let's move on before that gets a bit too graphic. What about this from Tuesday's Telegraph? Why should the workplace allow tardiness? Jonathan, you were actually late this evening.
OK, so...
I did notice that.
I promise you this is true. I was reading this article earlier and I was like, oh, that's ridiculous, just being so soft on people. And then I remembered, I actually got off of the train twice in wrong stops today. Twice.
There we go.
Twice. Anyway, sorry.
But are you dyslexic?
I assume so. I'm something.
You're something, OK.
Something.
Because they're saying here that dyslexic people should be given a bit more leniency, you know, when it comes to arriving late.
I think I'm dyspraxic, but...
Well, I was going to say, to what extent does this... I've never heard, and I used to teach dyslexic kids, I've never heard of a correlation between dyslexia and punctuality, or lack thereof.
In this case, it's to do with... So I am dyslexic, numerically, and...
Is that just calculus?
But how...
The numbers, as they call it.
It's the inversion of numbers, and I'm not
but
talking
Bruce, that
about...
doesn't make you late.
But no, it doesn't, but it did make this person late. So I don't suffer that because he was looking at digital clocks or watches and inverting his numbers that way.
If only there was some other kind of clock that he could have.
Well, this is the thing, but then...
To be fair, I find telling manual clocks pretty difficult as well, the time on there.
So do you think... Well, Bruce, in that case, you think because of this, it makes sense that the judge ruled in favour of the dyslexic person?
Yeah, but I can't see why people think he's at it.
Yeah,
sorry.
it sounds like someone's making an excuse, a little bit. You know,
maybe, yeah, but then that's not our lived experience. So who are we to say that is true?
The Smithsonian Museum in America was talking about how punctuality was a sign of white privilege.
I think it could have been.
And actually, you know, it's to expect people to be on time is racist as well. So maybe, you know,
I'll never be on time.
Being on time is racist.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh, I know. I'm going to start being late every night now, just to make sure.
I'm going to start being on time. No, I'm joking.
Right, we're going to move on now to this story. This next story is a genuinely world-changing breakthrough. Jonathan, this is you, isn't it?
Yes, this is me. So this is a fancy scientific story, and all of my scientific knowledge comes from Emmanuel in Space. So I'm not sure if I fully comprehend its...
Emmanuel in Space?
Yeah.
Is that a film?
It's an erotic series set in space. Have you never seen it?
I thought you meant David Emmanuel, who designed Princess Diana's wedding dress. No.
No.
Oh, Emmanuel!
We're all speaking at cross purposes here.
No, Emmanuel, because the thing is, in Ab Fab, Patsy was always in these Bond meets Emmanuel and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and I think, was Fiona Fullerton, I'm showing my age now, sorry, I was away to go off on a tangent and I shan't.
Bruce, we've got to get on with the story.
Yeah, sorry.
Jonathan, what is the story
So the story is, scientists discover superconducting material that could bring total revolution in energy and electronics.
Okay, explain how.
So not to raise expectations, scientists have discovered a new material that could be set to change the entire world. So it's a material that works both at a temperature and a pressure low enough to actually use it in practical situations. And what it does is, it essentially can, if I understand it, transmit electricity without any resistance. So normally in all circuits, when you're using electricity, you have resistance, which I believe, and I could be wrong, Stephen Allen's going to be very furious with me, it's essentially waste a load of energy, whereas this material, you can actually use 100% of the energy as part of the electric circuit. So
it says here,
massively more efficient.
It saves millions of megawatt hours currently lost to resistance.
Yeah. If you imagine that's just wasted energy,
yes,
our efficiency goes massively up. It also allows, I think, technology that we wouldn't otherwise be able to use because they're too power dependent.
So in a cost of living crisis, this kind of energy saving, you know, innovation,
that would
quite important.
What is the new material that they've found? Do we know this?
Well, it's been nicknamed red matter, but I think it is essentially just some scientific thingy-me-do-does.
That's a very technical term for it.
It is, yeah.
Red matter sounds scary to me. Though.
It's from Star Trek, I think.
Oh, is it?
Oh, is it not rare earth metal named lithium mixed with hydrogen?
Oh, it could well be.
And a small part of nitrogen.
Someone's been reading the article.
Well, exactly. It sounds like one of those drinks that I used to drink.
It's got a single mark on it.
It does. OK, we're going to move on to this one. What about this in the Telegraph, Bruce? This is Prince Andrew apparently is bewildered.
He is bewildered because he's yet to receive his inheritance from his mother. The money apparently has gone to Charles and it's gone from monarch to monarch. And I think that was to kind of deal with inheritance tax.
Yeah, but, oh, I see. But
yeah.
Is that not just the norm for the monarchy, that they just pass it over to the next monarch and say, you kind of deal with this?
Well, I've no idea, but Charles has basically said, because one of Andrew's bills, this is quite outrageous.
Oh, yeah.
It comes after the 74-year-old king apparently refused to pay for Prince Andrew's Indian healer guru, who charges £32,000 a year. The guru is reported to treat the prince with chanting, massages, see, dyslexic, massages and holistic therapy.
But that just sounds like an important business expense. You know?
Do you think?
Well, he needs to have his chakras sorted.
Yeah. Well, you know, as opposed to, well, maybe he shouldn't have given away £12 million so readily then, and he might have had some money on which to live on.
OK, but surely it's fair enough that, you know, his mother's died.
Yeah.
He would expect some, and she wasn't short of a bob.
No.
So I think he should expect something.
How come the royals don't have to pay tax? That's what I want to know. Is it just because they're the royals?
It's because they're the royals. Yeah. So you can't... Look, that's a different issue, Jonathan.
Yeah.
He's also apparently being evicted from wherever he lives. I think Charles wants him out and wants to put him in like a two up, two down masonette.
He's now in a one-bedroom flat in Deptford, apparently.
Yeah.
It's a lovely area, actually.
Is it all right?
Yes.
Yeah, not to be sniffed
Really
at.
nice farmers market.
OK, well, that is it for this section. But coming up in the final part, we've got apocalyptic plans, bountiful seeds, calm down, Bruce, and how eating squirrels might save humanity. See you in a second.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit up.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions those days are gone, I can tell you. She's only teasing. Go on.
He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one.
Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Jubes and Kerr. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway,
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, "Nah, stop arguing." I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
is the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching. Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Tuesday's newspapers with me, Andrew Doyle. Let's go to the Daily Star now. And in a few weeks, you will be saying Armageddon text from the government, Jonathan?
Ah, nice. Sounds like a frightened Italian, like Armageddon.
Armageddon the text from the government.
And we'd like to fully apologise to all Italians for that.
They're not watching.
Crime.
They're not watching this.
They don't have TVs. Right. So yeah. So this is kind of terrifying. In that they're all well read and read books and don't. No, I meant what I said. So UK to test terrifying Armageddon alarm as Brits warned. Alert to come within weeks.
So wait, the government is actually going to send an alarm down your phone that's going to scream at you when the end of the world is coming?
Yeah, well, not only that, they're going to test it, and you're not going to know when it's coming. Well, I assume, I'm making that up. But
wait, do they have access to our phones to do this kind of thing?
Oh, yeah.
What?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, if you've got TikTok, then the CCP have access to your phone. Everyone's got access to your phone.
This is ridiculous.
I've got access to your phone, Andrew. Everyone has seen everything any of us have ever Googled.
Yes, but luckily I have nothing to hide.
Ah, true.
Bruce, does this not worry you?
Well, it does, but then I was a victim of a scam before Christmas, and it was a text thing that had said, oh, you lost money, blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
So I was a wee bit vulnerable, more of that later. And I'd phoned, and the guy was really, he was horrible, and he was swearing and all that kind of stuff. But he had a full copy of my credit report. I was trying to say that I was owed money and it ended up being like a boiler that I'd taken out on finance a few years ago.
But that's probably someone just taking your data and detail.
But the thing is, I do think that people are listening into phone calls, but the reason that they can't criminalise anyone using that as evidence is because you can counter-sue because you've essentially been hacked or your privacy violated.
But, I think this is a big deal, but, the government shouldn't...
Well, a woman nearly wet herself. She said she's had a test call and she nearly scooshed.
But also, here's the other thing. If the end of the world is imminent, they're talking here about, like, what if there's a nuclear bomb about to go off in the UK? I don't want to know.
What if it's a tsunami, What if it's a tsunami and you've got 20 minutes to get in the car and drive away? I mean, I don't know.
I think the last thing the government want to do is orchestrate a panic in the event.
The roads.
I think in the event of a tsunami, you accept that some people are going to die and you just don't let them know about it.
Don't give them a heads up.
No, because they'll be much happier.
What about the people who could just saunter off if they're like, walk 10 metres down the road?
In extreme circumstances, Jonathan, you have to make some sacrifices.
I have my phone on silent anyway, so I'm not going to worry about it.
But that's the thing, the vast majority of people do. So what, is it going to...
No, I think it will.
No, I think it screams at you. According to this article, it just screams, nuclear attack.
Just Alan Partridge going, oh, we're under attack! It's going to be quite shocking, I think.
I don't like the sound of this at all. Anyway, we're moving on now to this story, the next one, about a repository that's housing lots of different seeds. Bruce?
Yeah, more doomsday scenarios with a Noah's Ark vault now has 2.4 billion seed in case apocalypse strikes.
Right, so this is in the Express, and this is a seed conservation programme.
Yes.
They've got all these different plant species.
Yeah, there's over 40,000.
It's called the Millennium Seed Bank.
Yes.
And it's like a Noah's Ark. So in other words, if Armageddon happens...
And we need to regrow.
They can regrow the planet.
But do you think it is the fact that people that are organising this know that something is going to happen, or is that being too conspiratorial?
Well, something always happens. It might be every 20,000 years, but, we all know that an asteroid came in the Younger Dryas impact 12,000 years ago, wiped out civilization, destroyed Atlantis, and then we had to rebuild. And we have some of that left over. I'm 50% joking, but I also kind of believe this.
You totally believe the Atlantis
Okay, I fully believe it. Let's get Graham Hancock on. But yeah, I mean, they might know something, but isn't this good to kind of make sure that we have...
I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I personally would like to know. I know you don't want to know.
You think that they already know that our time is up? And that's why they're collecting seeds.
Yeah, this is the thing. Or maybe Ryvita's going to go out of production.
If there is some secret government vault with 2 of every species of animal, then we know we're in trouble.
Well, absolutely.
And I think that'll be the next breaking news, won't it?
Yeah.
I don't like it. I think what we should do is, if there is a big meteor that's going to wipe us out, I think we just accept it.
OK.
We had our chance.
Is there not meant to be one in, is it 2050?
Is there?
Yeah, there's one in 23 or 27 years.
Just when world poverty has been eradicated, great.
Exactly, they pick their moments.
Right, we're going to move on now to
that's what eradicates
This is Tuesday's Times, and I'm not sure I want to eat food in the future. So, Jonathan, this one is...
Yeah, this is interesting. So, eating squirrel is good for the planet, says expert. Now this is interesting because I've heard something similar. My girlfriend told me I should eat more beaver, but there aren't any in the UK, so I don't really know what she was talking about. So last week, what's that look for? So last week, Russian state media said that British people were having to eat squirrels because there was little else in the shops. So they basically went on a bit of a rant.
Now, are not squirrels a type of vermin? Like, you know...
But then people do eat pigeon, and pigeon's vermin, isn't it?
Oh, yes, and pigeon's quite a delicacy, isn't it? It's mostly posh, mostly aristocrats.
It's relative. So lobster used to be what they'd give, poor people on ships, and now it's become like a luxury thing over here. It's culturally relative food.
So why is squirrel meat such a boon, according to these experts? What's so great about squirrel meat? I imagine it's quite tough.
Well, it tastes apparently in between chicken and rabbit, which is, something...
Really?
Yeah, according to the chef, Tim Madams. And, it's meat, it's protein, it's lean.
I wouldn't eat a squirrel. I think partly because I admire them too much. They're cute. Yeah. They're industrious. You know, the way that they bounce upon the trees with the acorns.
That's true. And
the acrobatic, athletic. There's a lot to admire about a squirrel.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And
why is it?
But I admire dogs.
Why is it that every meat that they, that's unusual, they say, oh, it's like chicken?
They do always say that, don't they?
That's a reference point, I suppose. Yeah.
What does chinchilla taste like?
Expensive, I would imagine.
Oh, they're very expensive, yes. I would, I'm a vegetarian, but I would probably eat a chinchilla.
Would you?
I think just to have the anecdote.
We'll make that happen.
Would you eat a swan?
No.
No.
Draw the line at that. This one from The Telegraph now is about polar bears rejecting Scientology or something. I haven't read it.
Yes, Tom Cruise has been told that he cannot land his helicopters on Arctic to protect the polar bear's untouched habitat.
So this is to do with the new Mission Impossible film.
Yes, but what he's angry about is that this same place, now I'm going to try and pronounce it, I want to say Svalbard. Svalbard,
yes.
Right, OK, but this region... No, the blouse is keeping it all in because it's an absorbent material.
Quite all right.
The region has been used in the 2002 Bond film, Die Another Day.
Yes.
So I think he's a bit hacked off. But I think this is probably to do with... This is a climate thing, if you see what I mean, and to do with hibernating and all that kind of stuff.
So they want to film around these polar bears, and this is for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 2.
Yes. Well, the bears will be dead.
And the bears will be dead. Yeah, so this is not good for the bears.
No, exactly. But Tom has to stop thinking that he has a God-given right just to go anywhere, to swing off a building and smash his ankle.
But that's what... I mean, he says he does all his own stunts. He wants to be, fighting a polar bear stripped to the waist in the Arctic.
And I would pay to see that.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah. Yeah, oh yeah, risky business. Whew, that was my.
Are you a fan of this? Do you think the bears should just suck it up?
I think so. What if they want to be in the film? This is taking jobs away from polar bears who want to be actors and extras.
How many Mission Impossible films have there been? I mean, surely...
90?
About 90, yeah. I think we're done by now, aren't we?
I don't know. He's getting younger and younger looking.
He is. Yeah, I think it's very creepy.
Is that the human growth hormone?
It might be that, or a deal with Satan, I like to think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but that's the sort of Catholic side of me. Anyway, we're going to finish on a feel-good story from Tuesday's Daily Star. Jonathan, Indiana Jones fan?
I am. The first three. Number 4 was a bit wacky, and
the fourth one with the aliens in the fridge was ridiculous.
I think now I probably actually quite like that, because I get where they're coming from. But at the time, I thought it was ridiculous.
And this is now Harrison Ford, who plays Indiana Jones, of course, has had an emotional reunion with...
With Ki Hai Kwan, I believe pronounced the name. He is a actor who has just won his first Oscar. He was...
And then we could see them, then and now.
Cute.
So
look at
he's the boy from Temple of Doom. And he was also in The Goonies.
And he was, so recently he was in Everything Everywhere All at Once, which has smashed it at the Oscars. I've not seen it yet. I've heard wonderful things, all except from our producer Martin, who says it's not so good.
Well, Jamie Lee Curtis won the Oscar last night for that film, but I think she was robbed for Halloween too.
OK, and A Fish Called Wanda, but did she...
Oh, but she's brilliant in Fish Called Wanda.
Yeah, classic. Yeah, she was hot.
So, Harrison Ford has this emotional reunion. I mean, it's a nice feel-good story.
It's less eventful than last year's Oscars, right? Last year's was a bit more controversial.
Yes, that's true, with the Chris Rock slapping event.
Yeah.
Although he did pretty well out of that.
He did.
His tour...
Not in a special. I mean, not to dump on another comic, but it wasn't amazing. And I like Chris Rock. He's one of the greats, but...
Do you think this is quite nice? Did you watch the Oscars, Bruce? You a fan?
Not really. No, I don't mind. I didn't understand why they didn't have a red carpet this year. They went for a champagne-coloured carpet. I don't understand the relevance of that.
Well, I'm not sure what they're trying to say there.
No, neither do I.
No.
I'd seen it.
It's just a lot of backslapping, isn't it? To be honest, a bit boring. But it's nice to see Harrison Ford you know,
Backslapping was last year. With the...
Oh, was that? Yeah,
well, that was front slapping.
Front slapping. Well, look, that is all we've got time for. But look, let's have another quick look at Tuesday's front pages before we depart. We've got the Daily Mail, who are leading with a slap in the face for BBC licence payers. This is the Gary Lineker story, of course. The Telegraph has boost for pensions as Hunt ready to raise cap. The Guardian has BBC bosses face pressure after U-turn over Lineker. The Times, PM strikes submarine deal to face new threat. And the Daily Star, great BBC balls up, 1-0 to the crisp salesman. We can't get rid of Lineker at the moment, it seems. That is all we've got time for. Thank you to my wonderful guests, Jonathan Cogan and Bruce Devlin. And tomorrow, Simon Evans will be here, joined by Roger Monkhouse and Scott Capurro. And remember, if you're watching the 5 a.m. repeat right now, just stay tuned because The Breakfast Show is going to be on just after the break. For the rest of you, I will see you soon on Headliners, 11 o'clock every night.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, "Nana, stop arguing." I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView, Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News has its own late-night paper preview show, Headliners, where comedians take you through the next day's top news stories. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper, we've got it covered for you. Headliners, every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
The BBC totally capitulates to Gary Lineker. We'll ask and debate tonight, is the BBC now beyond hope? A new book out from Professor Matthew Goodwin that shows that Westminster is even further away from Middle England than it was before the Brexit referendum. Lee Anderson comes in with his latest campaign, an idea that we should teach kids at school about suicide. Maybe that would stop a few young people taking their lives. And joining me on Talking Pints, Ali Mirage, conservative political activist and the founder of something called the Contrarian Prize. We'll find out what that's all about. All of that in a couple of minutes, but first, let's get the news with Polly Middlehurst.
Nigel, thank you, and good evening to you. Well, let's bring you some breaking news we've had just in the last few moments. We've heard the disgraced pop star Gary Glitter has been recalled to prison after breaching his licence conditions. In a statement, the Ministry of Justice said protecting the public